Hey, this is Noah with the Creative Startup, and today we're going to talk about how using fear can actually become an advantage instead of a liability. So I've seen in the creative world, in people's careers, in all sorts of different areas of life, fear stops people from really achieving what they want. Because fear can be positive, right? It can help you not fall off a cliff when you're standing at the edge. It can keep you away from a dangerous animal. It can help you mitigate a lot of the risk in your life. But the fact is, in today's world, those who are willing to take risks, reasonable risks, good risks, are actually rewarded heavily for doing that. Sure, they fail some, but they succeed some too. When you take big risks and you succeed, you typically do pretty darn well. So we're going to talk about today how visualizing the negative side of things can actually help you overcome your fear. Now, I've talked in previous videos, and I'll link it below, about positive visualization, how using the good, saying, oh, what's the best case scenario, and then picturing that in your head, how that can help propel you towards your goals. And I still believe in that. I think it's a great tactic. But when it comes to dealing with fear, negative visualization really does help. And this is not me making something up. This is a philosophy. Stoic philosophy talked about this before Jesus was alive, way back in the Roman Empire. So this is a proven tactic. A lot of psychologists back it up, and it really can help you conquer that fear. One example I really like, David Blaine gave this example in an interview with Tim Ferriss once. He said, positive visualization would say to a dad, oh, life is good. My daughter's probably going to outlive me. That's the positive situation. My daughter's going to outlive me. So if I stay late and work tonight and not see my daughter, that's fine. But negative visualization would say, dang, my daughter could die tomorrow. She could die tonight. And I spent my last night that I could have been with her at the office doing work. See, that negative visualization grounds you in a reality. It's also important to visualize things that are negative, because what it does is it helps you actually confront those things. I know a lot of times when it comes to like doing schoolwork, maybe this isn't like a big fear thing of mine, but it's the same idea. When it comes to doing schoolwork, I put it off, and in my mind it becomes like this big, huge thing that has to happen now. Like, oh, my school, it's going to be so hard, and it's just like I'm not even thinking about what I have to do. I'm just thinking about this like big, ugly thing that I have to do in the future that has to be done by Sunday. But if I actually sit down and say, okay, what do I have to do? How bad is this? What's the worst that it could be? Start to quantify exactly what it's going to take. My stress level just drops. Because the truth is, it's not more than I can take. Maybe it's right on my capacity level, but it's not more. And so when you quantify it like that, you think, bam, this is the worst that it is. Oftentimes you realize it's really not that bad, and you have more of a rational response. Like, no. Instead of being like just burdened by this huge thing in the future. Maybe it's a creative project you're working on. Maybe you've got a deadline for a book or for an album or for some graphics that you're doing. And in your head, you've let it become this huge thing. But instead, use the negative visualization to examine, pick apart really what it is that it's going to take. Pick apart really what it is that you have to do. Say, oh, that's really not all that bad. Instead of just trying to get the thought out of your head so you're not stressed, embrace it. Negative visualization can also ground you in reality in a different way. So a lot of times I find, especially artists, one of the main things that hold us back is fear, right? Because we've probably talented people. We've practiced our art. We're going to keep practicing it. We're going to get as good as we can. We're going to keep working at it. But a lot of times we're afraid to go share it with people. We're afraid of people's response. We're afraid of what they might say. We're afraid of what they might think. I know this sounds like elementary and you're like, I'm not afraid of that. But we are. Whether it's consciously, like you would actually say it, or subconsciously, which is more often the case where you deny the fact that you really care what people think, but in the back of your head, something stops you every time you want to share your work, every time you want to go play a show, every time you want to show someone what you're working on. Something kind of holds you back. Something makes that a bigger deal than it really is. And the truth is, that is a deep fear. And so if we can address this fear, instead of letting it be kind of this indescript, unpronounced fear in the back of our heads that we kind of just try to shun, that we just try to put off, look at the fear straight in the face. That's what courage is. Courage isn't the ability to not fear. Courage is the ability to look straight into the fear and say, oh, that's it? Okay, I got this. I got this. Even if you're still afraid, you address it. So think, okay, I show someone my art. I play a show. And the crowd hates it. They hate it. They boo me off stage. They throw crap up at the stage at me. And I hang my head low, grab my guitar, walk off stage, walk down the street. I can still afford to buy myself a nice meal, have a drink, go home, sleep in my warm, comfy bed, get up tomorrow, go to work. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. It's not like you're going to get up there, play a show, and it all goes bad, and then they stone you to death. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, you're not going to show someone your painting and they say, oh, this is so bad, I'm not your friend anymore. That doesn't happen. The truth is, we make our fears so much bigger because that's what keeps us alive. That's what's kept us alive through history, is that fear, right? The people who feared more lived better. They lived longer. But that's not the case anymore. That's not the case anymore. So you have to look at your fear and not let it project itself into this big, ugly hologram that's not real. Minimize it. Make it, okay, that's all you are? No need to fear anymore. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking your fear, you're taking the thing that you're so afraid of that's holding you back, and instead of letting it become this emotional thing, you objectify it down and just put it somewhere in your brain. That's the trick. Because fear is emotional. Pain is emotional. Worry, it's emotional. We feel it in our heart. We feel it in our soul. It's deep within us, right? So it's hard to quantify. It's hard to rationalize. But we still feel it. And I don't want to deny the validity of that. But if you can objectify your fear by addressing it, turn it into something that just goes in your head, helps you make a better decision, but doesn't stop you in an irrational, huge kind of way. So I've come up with 3 tactics that you can use, kind of just practical tips to address your fears more efficiently, more effectively, and to not let them control your life. So tactic number 1, I like doing this whenever I just have like worry weighing on me. You know, sometimes like it'll be the end of a weekend. You know, I've had a nice weekend, been relaxing. Sunday night comes and I just start to feel that weight, like, oh crap, like school and work and more work. And it weighs on me, all this stuff like that I was kind of just leaving behind me on the weekend, like, oh, it hits me again. So what I'll do is I'll go down, I'll grab my journal here, and I'll write down, like on this line, I'll write down one thing that's weighing on me. Couple lines down, write another. Couple lines down, write another. Couple lines down, until I feel like I've regurgitated everything that's weighing on me. Everything I'm afraid of, everything I'm worried about, everything that's just in the back of my head. And then what I'll do is once I've written down those things on these lines, I'll go under them and answer my fears. Say, you know, I feel like work is really weighing on me tomorrow. It's going to be a hot day and I work in roofing. So it's like, if it's going to be a hot day tomorrow, I really start to worry about going to work because I'm like, it's going to be so miserable. It's hot. It's not fun. And I'll just write under there, you're going to get paid well. It's not going to last forever. It's only a day. You're going to easily have proper hydration, proper food. Like, you have so much going for you. It's really not that bad. Or maybe I'll say, I'm really worried that this project isn't going to get done. And so instead of letting that be just this fear, worry in the back of my head, I'll say, 1 thing, you're a hard worker and you'll make it happen. 2, if you really need to, you can take off work and get it done. 3, you know, and you just list out like, no, and rationalize those fears and give practical answers to them. Answer the fear, answer the worry with reason. I promise this will help. Tactic 2, practice pain now and then. And now I'm not talking about like inflicting pain upon yourself. I'm not encouraging that. I do not endorse that. That's horrible. Please don't do that. But I am talking about just uncomfortableness. Things that are just a little bit uncomfortable that you might subconsciously fear. Right? Like one thing that I really like to do, and this isn't as much stoic as it is just like a health thing, but it is really helpful, is like when I'll take a shower At the end of my shower, I crank the dial all the way to cold and stand in it for like 30 seconds, right? Because one thing, it like wakes me up. It like gets my nerves going and gets me energized. But also because it kind of toughens you up a little bit. It gets your brain on a higher level instead of being just kind of like afraid of any discomfort. Like, the temperature drops 2 degrees and I got to go get my sweatshirt and just like trying to adapt everything to the world. Sometimes just practice a little bit of toughness to the world. Or another thing that I've heard suggested, and I've done this before too, is just like fast for a day. Fast for a day. Sometimes people fast for religious reasons, and that's great too. But fasting for just simply the practice of like, okay, worst comes to worst, I can't afford to eat for a day. If that's the worst case scenario, why not try it? Why not eat for a day and see how terrible it is? Or maybe you think worst comes to worst, I have to eat rice and beans for a couple weeks because I can't pay my bills. And so eat rice and beans for a week. Because then you can say in the back of your head, instead of making a decision like, oh crap, if I do this, I might get poor, I might lose my money, and then I have to live on rice and beans. But if you've actually done it, if you've actually practiced that, you can say, worst comes to worst, I do this, it doesn't work, and then I just have to eat some rice and beans. That's not that bad. It's not that bad. You can survive. You'll be fine. Rationalize it. And tactic 3, it really comes into practicality when you start taking big risks. Now, don't take big risks that'll cost you everything in life. Don't take big risks that aren't very thought out or anything. Don't just be stupid. I'm not endorsing stupidity. I'm not endorsing just not thinking about stuff. But I am endorsing doing stuff that is big and scary and hard. Because instead of thinking every time you enter a situation like, how could this go good? How could this benefit? How could this be positive? How could all this work out for me? Sometimes it's better to think, what's the worst that could happen? Okay, let's try it. Especially when it comes to just fun things that you do. Maybe you want to go salsa dancing. Maybe you want to go cliff jumping into the water. Maybe you want to do these things that seem kind of scary, but they're really not that risky. At my cabin, it's on a lake that's always kind of cold. It's spring-fed, so it's always cold in the lake, right? And so most people, they get at the foot of the dock, right? And they start running down the dock, and they get to the edge, and they stop because they're like, crap, this water's going to be cold. And then they have to like think through everything. Okay, it's going to be cold, but it's worth it. It's hot out. It's going to feel good when I get out. All this stuff. But instead of being that person, you want to be the person who just practices running down the dock and jumping right into the water. Don't think about how cold it's going to be. Just think about, I'm doing this. I'm running down the dock. I'm going to jump into the water. And honestly, even that, just doing that practice, it'll make you more bold in your day-to-day life. Just learning to, instead of letting fear be this whole thing that like grabs you and pulls you around even if you can get out of it, make fear this thing in the back of your head that says, shut up. And then you go do what you want to do. Again, don't do stupid things that are going to like ruin your life or seriously injure you. When it's little things that are like going to be a little uncomfortable, like turning the shower all the way cold. Most times I'm standing there like, man, I do not want to turn the shower cold. This is going to not be fun. It's going to hurt for a second. It's going to make me kind of dizzy and give me the chills. And I'm standing in this warm water right now and it feels so nice. Then I'll turn it cold and it is uncomfortable. I was right. But it doesn't last forever. And when I get out of the shower, I feel energized. I don't feel like sluggish and still sweaty and hot. I feel energized. I feel fresh and clean and ready for the day. So I encourage you guys, again, 3 tactics. Write down your fears and then answer them. 2, practice a little bit of pain. Practice a little bit of pain. And 3, practice just rushing in to stuff that you know isn't super risky, but that you might be holding back from. Just do it. Just try it. I hope this is helpful for you guys. If you guys want to read some good books about this, I would encourage you to read anything by like Seneca. He's an ancient philosopher. And also check out, I'll put a link below, the Tim Ferriss show where he interviews David Blaine. He talks a lot about this. Really, really helpful advice. Really great show. Hope you guys enjoy. See you next week.